the heavy hand of the pale king. The land cried out beneath the weight of conquest. The blood of the faithful had watered the soil, but the Greeks were not yet satisfied. They did not come for land alone. They came to break the spirit of the covenant people. The sky loomed low, heavy with the breath of something unseen. Smoke curled from the ruins of sacred places, where once the righteous offerings had risen like a holy mist. The wind carried the stench of burnt oil, the charred scent of incense that once rose in honor of Yahweh, now nothing more than a bitter reminder of what had been defiled. Then, the sound that made the people's blood run cold, the slow, methodical rhythm of boots upon stone. The Greeks moved like a shadow swallowing the land, their pale faces unreadable beneath iron helms. Their commander rode ahead, his silver cloak billowing like a storm cloud. In his hands, he carried a scroll, a decree from the pale king. At the temple gates, the officer dismounted, eyes scanning the crowd with cold indifference. Soldiers unrolled the parchment and nailed it to the stone, the echo of iron spikes ringing through the air like a death knell. Fire, then the king wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. 1 Maccabees 1:41-42. The law of the Greeks now ruled this land. The people stood silent, their faces etched with sorrow. But their silence was not submission, it was grief. Zokiah, son of the old ways, stepped forward. His joints ached, but not from age, from the weight of generations that had carried this covenant before him. He cradled the sacred scroll of the law against his chest as one cradles a dying child. The parchment was soft, worn by time and prayer, its ink smudged by the tears of prophets long past. Nicandros dismounted, his steel-clad boots grinding into the dust of the temple steps. His blue eyes flickered with amusement, but there was something else beneath them, hunger. The hunger of a man who had broken many before this moment, who expected to break another. So this is the great people of the covenant, he murmured. Nothing but whispers and broken backs. He turned to Zokiah, his expression unreadable. Old man, Nicandros said, his voice as smooth and cold as polished stone. You clutch that parchment like a man drowning clings to a branch. But drowning men do not fight the tide, they submit. Zokiah did not answer. His lips moved in silent prayer, his fingers tightening around the scroll. Nicandros exhaled, almost amused. Bow to Zeus, he said, and live. Zokiah finally spoke, his voice a whisper against the howling wind. Fire, we are not without hope. We are not without Yah. Nicandros' expression darkened. He turned to his men. Make an example of him. The people did not move. Some lowered their heads in fear, the shame burning in their chests. Others clutched their children close, whispering prayers into their hair, as if the breath of Yah might still reach them. But a few, just a few, watched with fire in their eyes, their fists clenched at their sides. The Greeks had taken much, but they had not yet taken everything. Fire, they chose rather to die, that they might not be defiled, and that they might not profane the holy covenant, so then they died. 2 Maccabees 6:19-20. Nicandros mounted his horse, unmoved as Zokiah was dragged away. The sound of his cries echoed through the valley, twisting with the wind. His blood would stain the dust, but the Greeks would not stop until they had crushed the soul of the people. But far from the city, hidden among the hills, a fire was rising. Scroll the voice of the Most High. High in the mountains, where the land kissed the sky, the night was alive with the crackle of fire and the murmur of men preparing for war. Matari Zuberi stood before them, his staff planted deep in the soil. The mountains stretched wide, the same mountains that had once been a refuge for prophets and kings. Around him stood warriors, shepherds, farmers, and sons of the covenant who had left their plows and tools behind. Some held weapons. Others came with nothing but their hands and the fire in their hearts. Omari, his hands still callous from plowing fields rather than wielding a blade, swallowed hard. His pulse thrummed against his skin, his fingers tightening around the hilt of a sword that still felt foreign in his grip. But Matari, we are few. There are many. The night wind carried his words, as if testing the strength of his doubt. Matari's grip on his staff tightened. He studied Omari for a long moment, as if searching his face for something unseen. Then, he exhaled. Tell me, he said, does the lion count the jackals before he strikes? Silence. Then, the ground trembled beneath them. A wind rose, fierce and unrelenting, howling through the trees like the breath of something unseen. And then came the fire. A single bolt of lightning split the sky, striking a great boulder at the edge of the ridge. The air smelled of burning stone, the heat leaking at their skin. The rock shattered, and from within its broken shell, a flame emerged, untouched by the wind, unyielding to the night. The warriors gasped. Some fell to their knees. Omari's breath caught in his throat. He had questioned. Now, he could not. Matari stepped forward, his face illuminated by the golden glow. His voice was steady, unwavering. Fire, fear not, for the battle is not yours, but yours. 1 Maccabees 3:22. And in that moment, every man who had come in doubt rose in certainty. The war was no longer theirs alone. Scroll betrayal in the dark. But the fire did not burn unseen. Deep in the valley, where the shadow swallowed the land whole, a man moved between the trees, his robe of fine Greek linen barely brushing the undergrowth as he slipped through the night. He carried no sword, no shield. Only a pouch heavy with silver. Adoniah knelt before Nicandros, the weight of 30 silver coins pressing against his ribs. His mouth was dry. His hands, once lifted in worship, now trembled beneath the weight of betrayal. He had once spoken the prayers of the covenant, but now his lips carried only whispers of treachery. Matari and his sons hide in the hills beyond the eastern ridge, he whispered. By dawn, they will be preparing for battle. Nicandros' lips curled into something that might have been a smile. Good, he said. At dawn, we finish this. Above them, on the high ridge, the fire still burned. Unyielding. Unbroken. A promise written in flame. Dawn was coming. And with it, blood.